Let's get right into it. Number 7. Columbus discovered America. Ah yes, the man who bravely sailed across the ocean to find a new world that already had millions of people living on it. According to your school textbook, Christopher Columbus was basically a cross between an adventurous sailor and a GPS pioneer. The reality? The GPS part is accurate. If your GPS frequently tells you to drive into the ocean and then claims you invented driving, Columbus didn't even set foot on the mainland of what we now call the United States. He mostly bounced around Caribbean islands like a confused tourist looking for the hotel lobby. And as for discovering America, the Vikings had been to North America centuries earlier. Indigenous peoples had been living there for at least 15,000 years. But apparently, none of that counts if you don't write it down in European handwriting. Your school probably skipped over the not-so-wholesome part of Columbus's adventures. The enslavement, violence, and forced conversions of the people he met. Those weren't exactly page 3 of your fun facts about explorers material. Instead, you got the sanitized version, smiling Columbus, happy little ships, and maybe a turkey dinner. Basically, Columbus didn't discover America. He discovered people already living there, told Europe they were property, and then accidentally made himself the poster child for history oversimplification. Number 6. Einstein was bad at math. Here's one you might have heard from a teacher trying to make you feel better about your grades. Don't worry, even Einstein failed math. Cute story. Totally false. Einstein wasn't failing math, he was destroying it. The guy was doing calculus before most of us figured out long division. So where did this lie come from? Turns out, it was a mistranslation. In Switzerland, Einstein got a grade of 1 in math, which in their grading system was the best possible score. Somewhere along the way, people assumed 1 meant you got 1 question right, buddy, instead of, you aced this so hard the teacher had to go lie down. The myth stuck because it's comforting. We love the idea that geniuses are secretly just like us, failing quizzes and doodling in the margins. But Einstein's real problem wasn't math, it was authority. He argued with teachers, skipped classes, and had the audacity to think independently. Schools hate that. So no, Einstein wasn't bad at math, he was bad at playing along. And that's how you end up with a legend that makes struggling students everywhere feel better, while quietly insulting one of the greatest physicists of all time. Number 5. Humans only use 10% of their brain. If you've ever heard this one, you probably also saw it in some inspirational poster with a galaxy background. You're only using 10% of your brain. Imagine what you could do with the other 90%. Here's the thing. If you were really using only 10% of your brain, you'd be in a coma, or dead, or maybe starring in a very slow reality show. Brain scans show that pretty much all parts of your brain are active at different times, even when you're just doing boring stuff like scrolling social media or microwaving questionable leftovers. This myth likely started from early neuroscience misunderstandings in the late 1800s, when scientists noticed some brain areas didn't seem to have obvious functions. Spoiler, they were wrong. They just didn't know what those areas did yet. Also, the self-help industry jumped on it like a caffeinated squirrel because it's a great sales pitch. Unlock your hidden 90%. Just buy my course for $299. The reality is that your brain is more like a power-hungry city. Even when you're doing nothing, neurons are firing like crazy to keep you alive, regulate emotions, and remind you of embarrassing things you said in middle school. You're already using all of it, you're just not using it all at once. And honestly, given how many bad decisions humans make with a fully functional brain, maybe we don't need to unlock anymore. Number 4. Blood is blue until it touches air. You might remember this from a teacher pointing at your wrist and saying, "See those veins? They're blue because your blood hasn't touched oxygen yet." Sounds cool. Feels science-y. It's also pure nonsense. Your blood is never blue. It's always some shade of red, because hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen, is red whether it's loaded up with oxygen or not. Oxygen-rich blood is bright red. Oxygen-poor blood is darker red. The blue you see in your veins is just an optical illusion caused by how light penetrates skin and bounces back. This myth stuck around partly because it makes for a neat mental image and partly because school diagrams used to literally draw blood blue and red for easy labeling. Problem is, the simplification turned into fact in people's heads. So no, your body is not running on 2 different colors of blood like some weird patriotic smoothie. It's just light playing tricks on your eyes, the same way your phone screen tricks you into thinking it's only been 5 minutes when it's actually been 3 hours. Number 3. Chameleons change color to camouflage. The classic animal superpower, a chameleon blending perfectly into its surroundings like a reptile version of a ninja. That's what the textbooks, and about a million cartoons, told you. But in reality, chameleons don't change color to match anything they're sitting on. Sure, their color shifts can sometimes help them blend in, but that's not the main reason. They actually change color for communication, temperature control, and mood. It's more like a mood ring that can scream, "I'm angry," or "back off, this is my branch," than a magic invisibility cloak. The science behind it is wild. Their skin contains special cells called chromatophores, which have pigments that expand or contract depending on light, temperature, and emotional state. Under that layer, they've got iridophores that reflect light like tiny mirrors. Together, these cells make it possible for a chameleon to go from leafy green to sunset gradient in a few seconds. So no, your childhood image of a chameleon turning plaid because it's sitting on a picnic blanket is pure cartoon logic. In the real world, they're basically tiny lizards with built-in billboards that say hot, cold, mad, or in the mood. And honestly, if humans could do that, every awkward date would be 100% more efficient. Number 2. Medieval people thought the earth was flat. This one's a personal favorite because it's just not true. By the Middle Ages, almost every educated person in Europe already knew the earth was a sphere. Sailors, scholars, and even monks were in on it. The whole flat earth thing was actually a smear campaign from the 19th century, when some writers wanted to paint medieval people as ignorant so they could make themselves look smart and modern. The Greeks had calculated Earth's circumference over 1,700 years earlier, using shadows and math that would still pass a modern geometry class. By medieval times, the idea of a round Earth wasn't controversial, it was just basic knowledge. But the myth is catchy. It's a great way to make history sound like a neat little progress story. Once upon a time, people thought they'd fall off the edge of the world. Then we got smart. Reality? People have always been plenty smart, and also plenty gullible about other stuff. So next time someone jokes about medieval flat earthers, you can smugly correct them. Just be prepared for the conversation to go downhill fast, because nobody likes losing a fun misconception. Number 1. Napoleon was extremely short. Ah yes, the image of Napoleon Bonaparte, a tiny, hat-wearing man compensating for his height by conquering half of Europe. Textbooks love to paint him as a pocket-sized dictator with a bad temper. The truth? He was actually about 5'6" or 5'7", perfectly average for a Frenchman in the early 1800s. So where did the Napoleon was short thing come from? A delightful mix of propaganda and unit confusion. British cartoonists at the time loved mocking him, and nothing's easier than drawing your enemy as comically small next to giant soldiers. Plus, French and British measurements didn't line up. His recorded height in French inches looked smaller when converted to British ones. So, voila, the legend of tiny Napoleon was born. The Napoleon complex stereotype, short guys being more aggressive, got attached to his name later, even though there's zero proof he was picking fights because of height issues. In fact, he was often surrounded by his imperial guard, who were deliberately chosen for their towering stature, making him look shorter by comparison. So Napoleon wasn't unusually small, he just had a PR problem, which, in fairness, is still better than the PR problem of being exiled to an island and dying there. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.